Welcome to Creative Caregiving and Beyond. More and more people are having to become caregivers for their elderly loved ones, and navigating this journey can be really difficult. This podcast will provide guidance and give practical tips for your family. Your host is Wendy Whiteman, elder law attorney, author, speaker, and leading insight advisor in senior protocol and senior lifestyle trends. Know that you are not alone in getting the help that you need. Let's get started. And here's Wendy.
Welcome back to Creative Caregiving and Beyond. As many of you know, I'm the caregiver for my mom, and today we've got a special guest on who's going to give us some more information on how we can make our journey just a little bit easier. Today we have Alycia Temple, who's the Sales and Marketing Director with Heartis of Arlington. Alycia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Great to be here. Thank you, Wendy.
Great to have you here. Well, we've been talking a little bit today before we came on camera, and I think your background is so interesting. Could you give us a little view of what got you started in the senior care space?
Absolutely. So back in 2005, I was still an undergraduate. I went to Texas Tech University, and my grandmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Oh. And she was in her late 70s. She was about 78. My mom lived in Europe at the time, and she said, Alycia, you know, grandma's got dementia now, and we need to put together a solution. I need your help. I'm in England. I can't get her here. So my senior year at Tech, I left, moved to Arizona to go take care of my grandmother for the summer. The summer ended up being 3 years, and I learned more than I ever thought would be possible about dementia and the dementia journey. Yes. So my grandmother didn't know who I was. She just thought I was her helper. She knew my face. She knew I was somebody that was safe for her. Mm-hmm. But I learned everything from how to safely prepare your home so you don't have somebody that's going to exit, seek, and elope, because she was a runner. she wanted to get out of the house. I had to learn how to give somebody, you know, a proper shower. All of this at the age of 22 years old. Wow. So my grandmother, I always just thank, because she's the reason I'm in the industry now. So when I meet with families today, I always say, I know what you're going through. Mm-hmm. I've walked through your shoes. I get it. I'm not just a salesperson trying to sell you on what assisted living is.
Right.
I get it. I know. I mean, I had to change my locks at the house because my grandmother would leave at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd have to figure out, okay, where is she? What's going on?
Right.
So when I was an undergrad, like I mentioned, I was in school when I started this journey being her full-time caregiver. So I transferred. She lived in Arizona. I transferred to right outside of Phoenix is where she was living, and I took care of her for 3 years. I was in Mesa, Arizona. I transferred my credits over to Arizona State, but I finished my degree in psychology. I was so set on being a child psychologist. But going through this journey of caring for her, I said, this is something that I want to look a little bit deeper in.
Right.
And so I started doing social work in an adult daycare facility that only worked with people living with dementia. Okay. And I would put together caregiver seminars, and I would just do all kind of different topics, healthcare related, just for the population, for people living with Alzheimer's, people that were caregivers. So after being in Arizona, I said, I don't know why I'm still here after my grandmother passed away. I said, so I have no family here. I really didn't have friends. I said, it's time to go home. So I moved back to the Dallas area, and I couldn't find a job with what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And I loved what I was doing. I was so passionate about working with seniors, working in the industry, but I wasn't a social worker, so I couldn't get a social worker job. So I actually went back to my first love, which was makeup, and I started working at Nordstrom. And I had a company, a senior living company that I met with, that said, hey, can you come do a beauty event at our senior living community? And I said, sure. But it ended up being, hey, I actually used to, you know, I work in this industry. So it went from, you know, beauty to going to a facility.
Yes.
And I was with this company, the senior living company that I was with them for 8 years until I transitioned out to Heartis, where I am now. But prior to that, working in this industry, my passion grew. I wanted to really study and learn more about gerontology. Mm-hmm. So I have a bachelor's in psychology, and then I have a master's in gerontology. So it really helps me speak to families to help them educate And that's what I tell people. I said, I'm not here to sell you.
Right.
I'm here to educate you on the dementia journey. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen because it will happen.
Yes.
So you can't do it by yourself.
No, you can't.
And it's exhausting. And I was 22 years old trying to do it by myself. So, you know, most of the families that I work with, they're the sandwich generation. They've got their parent they're caring for. They've got children they're caring for. And you have to care for yourself. You have to care for the caregiver. So that's one of the most important just details that I like to talk to families about is we can take care of your loved one, but you've got to take care of yourself too. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how I got into this industry, was being a caregiver myself.
Well, that's so true. And you do get it. I mean, your background personally and professionally, you've been there.
Yes.
Yeah, you do it. You know exactly what these families are going through.
I've lived it. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Well, hats off to you, because I know your family truly appreciates you, and I know your grandmother, my goodness, what a commitment.
Yeah.
That says a lot about you.
Thank you so much.
It
I
does.
appreciate that.
It really does. So what type of senior living options are available at Heartis?
So Heartis Arlington, we have assisted living and memory care. Our assisted living, the state of Texas recognizes three different types, but there's a type A, type B, and there's actually type C, which most people don't know about. But we have type B. So that means basically by the state, our residents do not have to self-evacuate in under 13 minutes. So we want our residents to move to our community, and we want them to age in place as long as possible. Basically, who that determining factor is that's going to say, you know what, we can't care for you anymore. We have a health services director, we have an executive director, we also have an in-house physician that after they collaborate together and they say, you know what, there is maybe a skilled task that needs to be performed that we can't do by state licensure, so they'd have to move to a skilled nursing facility.
Okay.
But generally, we want to be our residents' last home.
Okay. Well, in assisted living too, I don't know, most people may or may not realize this. There's so many different options. It's like you have activities and amenities and services, everything that you would want available.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you asked what type of assisted living we have, because a lot of people, there is independent living as well. Our assisted living, and again, I've been in this industry close to 15 years now. I've never seen such a high-functioning, just very independent assisted living, and that's what Heartis Arlington is.
Yeah.
We have residents, I mean, and over the past year, I've moved in probably a dozen residents that don't require any service. They just wanted to move in while they could make the decision, and they don't need any care, but they want it available should there be an emergency. Should they need something at 2 o'clock in the morning, they know that care is right around the corner. And we have quite a few testimonials of residents that will tell you why they chose the community. And we even had one that lived at Heartis. Her husband needed it. He passed on, and then she moved to a 62-plus apartment complex. She was there 6 months, and she said, I need to go back home. That's where my family is. I know the caregivers. I know the residents, their family. And she came back as soon as she could get out of her lease, and she came back home. So even though we are assisted living, just to share, and I always like to tell families when they come and we're trying to determine, you know, what's going to be a better fit, I always ask them, I say, if your loved one, if they can live in their apartment by themselves and not have somebody coming into the apartment to assist them, let's say for maybe an hour, 2 hours or whatnot, I said, will they be okay to be in assisted living? Because if we're not providing a service at that very moment, they're by themselves. If we're not coming in to pass medication or do a wellness check or a reminder, which again, all that is completely customized. We do a very in-depth, it's about a 15-page assessment tool that we do to determine what level of care, what the needs are for each resident. It's completely customized. But I always say, you know, if they can be in their apartment by themselves, then they can be in our community.
Oh, good.
So just because we're not there 24 hours a day with them in their apartment, staffing, yes, we're staffing 24 hours a day, and they've got that pendant that if they need something when we don't have their scheduled care, we're there for them. So
what is the pendant?
So we have pull cords in the bathroom, we have a pull cord in the bedroom, and then they wear a Life Alert pendant.
Okay.
So I know that's the actual,
Yes.
branded name, but
Yes.
it's an emergency pendant that they wear, that if they need anything, I mean, we tell them, we jokingly say, it's not, for room service. It's not for us to come,
Right.
hey, can you bring me my favorite beverage from the refrigerator?
Right.
But no, it's if you have an emergency, if you need us, if you need something, we're going to be there for you.
Okay.
Because people will, they'll get a little pendant happy and push it and say, oh, I just
push
need
it.
some popcorn. Can you
Let's
bring me
see
some
if you were
popcorn?
going to respond quick. Yeah.
Yeah, bring me a snack.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad you made that point that sometimes the actual resident themselves make that decision while they can make that
Yes.
decision to move into assisted living,
Yes.
and not a family member bringing them there
Yes.
saying you have to do this. That's that's a very good point.
And believe it or not, I've had quite a few, I would say within the past year and a half, that they brought their loved one that needed memory care. And they said, I want them to choose the community. And I sat with families with their loved one that has dementia. And they said, we've seen a couple other places, but this feels like home to me. And this is new. Again, in 15 years, I had never had families bring their loved one
Right.
on a tour for memory care. And this year, 2021, we had a couple families, and the resident chose our community. So, but assisted living, it's so common. I mean, I'm doing the visits and the tours with the actual resident. So,
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great to have you there. I'm sure is a comfort in the assessment.
Thank you.
Things that probably the family had not thought about,
Yes.
or the resident hadn't thought about, and making sure that it's a right fit for them. Yeah,
absolutely.
that's good. That's great. Now you also have memory care, and with your memory care, you talked about the Montessori
Yes.
program, or is that called Spark? Or?
So we have a program for our life enrichment, and it's
Okay.
called Spark.
Okay.
We're all about sparking purpose, sparking memories.
Oh, okay.
And the way that we base this programming is it's all resident led, it's resident driven. So our life enrichment director will sit down and she'll have an activity planning meeting with our residents. And she'll say, okay, because they'll plan the calendar together for the upcoming month. And she'll say, so we're going to do, let's just say for happy hour, what snacks do y'all want to have for happy hour? And they'll say, oh, we love that spinach artichoke dip, or we want a charcuterie board, or we want whatever they said that they want.
Yes.
And they'll prepare it together.
Okay.
So she's basically just putting down all the steps, but the residents, they'll put on gloves, they'll put on masks, and they'll cut the cheese, they'll do the spread of, for the fruit, for the crackers. So they'll put together the whole charcuterie board. We'll have residents that are passing out the napkins. They're pouring the wine, because our residents still, they're able to drink, participate in adult beverages and memory care. So they'll put together the whole event together. They'll plan the entertainment. Do you want to hear jazz? Do you want to have somebody coming in and, singing Patsy Cline? They choose every detail
wonderful.
of the events that we have. So if it's happy hour, as another example, we have, we're going to be doing a sip and paint.
Okay.
It's coming up here next week. The residents have chosen what they want to paint.
Okay.
So it's just basically being so involved. Everybody has a job, not just, hey, we're going to paint today and this is what you're going to paint. No, I'm going to pass out the canvas. The canvas is for everybody to paint. You are going to take care of the easels. You have to go give everybody the red paint or the blue paint, so everybody is so involved. But what's most important is our life enrichment directors, they sit with the residents and they do a whole activity assessment to find out, what did you used to love to do that you haven't been doing at home? Because 98% of the time when I move residents, whether it's assisted living or memory care, I always ask, what are you doing every day? What are you doing for purpose every day? And 98% of the time the answer is watching TV. Okay, well that's not purposeful.
Right.
What is sitting there and watching TV? Right. Now, I mean, some people may say yes, that's purposeful for them, but
if it's all day, they're just with no
you're
other.
sitting.
Right.
And we structure our entire day. I mean, every day our residents are going to start with exercise, and they're going to do exercise for 30 minutes, and after they do the physical Then they're going to go into more of either an emotional or an intellectual, where we're doing trivia, we're doing different games, just to get we're doing the physical, now we're going to exercise the mind.
Yes.
And after they do the mind, then we usually go into lunch, but then we'll come back from lunch, and then they do a creative piece. And so the creative could be what's purposeful. It could be, again, something emotional. It could be, and I forgot to mention, the spiritual part is in the morning as well.
Okay.
So we have a whole system that we follow to have our residents with their daily journey start and end with purpose every single day. And we have residents that you would have never caught them before, maybe singing karaoke or doing different things, but they're now in an environment that is just so conducive to where they are in their dementia journey. And they have friends, and to see the bond and to see the relationship that persons living with dementia have, it's unexplainable. They get each other. It's just a bond. It's pretty fascinating, and they become best friends, and they look for each other, and they'll walk each other home, to their apartments. It's beautiful. So
I bet you're seeing some great results with that.
absolutely, we certainly have. So
Well, it gives them a reason for
It does.
being that day,
and that's
every
what I
day.
say. You've got to wake up every day with a purpose,
Yeah.
and that's what our Spark programming does. Is it sparks purpose every single day.
Well, that's great. Well, I can tell that there are a lot of, it's so well thought out.
It is.
At Heartis, and senior communities are more purposeful.
Yes.
And you mentioned before we got on camera about your degree, and you were designing one of your projects was
my
to
goodness.
design a senior living.
Yes. I designed a memory care for my project in graduate school. And I mean, we had to go from the detail of what the flooring, carpet, are you using laminate flooring, wood flooring, to the colors of the paint on the wall. I mean, there's so many different therapies that are included that you don't even think about. I mean, this cream colored couch or the walls, there's so much that coincides with colors, with therapy.
Yes.
Just to give you an example, if we have residents that aren't eating well, we may put a different color plate underneath their food. So let's say we'd use a red plate because red is an appetite stimulant. So they're not eating, but now they have their food on a red plate, and they say, oh, okay. Now it's time to eat. So different colors that are soothing, that are exciting, that just it's fascinating how just the brain works and how you can get residents to just relax if you change the environment, put on a little essential oil, some soft music, and our entire community, it's a very soft, I would say, kind of like a periwinkle lavender color. It's just very calming, very soothing.
Well, and you have to do that. Sometimes I have to do that with my mom who lives with me. Certain times of day, we have to kind of get that mood changed a little bit and just make it, more relaxing for her.
Yes.
Because it's their perception. Even though it may be relaxing, but what are they perceiving it to be? And just kind of switching that up a little bit.
Right.
And I also read that you guys have an executive chef that basically prepares the food that it's easier for them to eat and more palatable. And I mean, everything's directed towards their enrichment, their life enrichment, their enjoyment, so to speak.
It is, absolutely. However, people have this misperception, but even though it's assisted living, our residents still eat very well. And again, I've been in this industry for close to 15 years now, and I brag on our executive chef. We are one of the flagship Heartis communities with our dietary and dining program because our residents are eating good. I mean, there's not many assisted living communities that I've been to that you'll still see, filet mignon, mahi-mahi, salmon on the menu.
You're right.
and so we have such a variety. Our residents, sometimes they'll complain, well, I don't want this. I just want some chicken fried steak. That's fine too, but we have such an assortment. I mean, we'll have Italian, we'll have Mexican, we'll have Asian. I mean, we have so many different types of options. And again, our residents, we have a monthly menu chat. And that's when they have the opportunity to say, hey, I want to see this on the menu. They're even able to bring their own menu or their own recipe. And they say, hey, chef, I want you to make this. And so on the assisted living side, a lot of times we'll do a tasting Tuesday, and it may be one of their favorite recipes. Or if she just says, hey, this is my cake, we'll either let them come in the kitchen and bake their own cake, or we'll incorporate it during the week into the menu. So we do have a nutritionist, of course, that oversees all of the menus that we have, but our chefs, they work really closely with the residents to make sure that we're serving what they want to eat. This is their home. You know, bottom line, we always say our residents run our community because it's their home.
Yes.
And that's how it should be. We don't want them thinking, I'm moving to this place and I have to give up my freedom for everything. I don't have any choice or any say in anything. And that is far from the truth.
Well, it sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like you guys are just valuing the input of the residents.
Absolutely.
Yes, they get to participate in everything.
And especially in memory care, you know, sometimes the sense of taste is the last to leave. So we want to make sure our residents are, you know, enjoying what they're eating and they're enjoying their snacks and having their sweets and things like that. Assisted living, it's restaurant style dining. They'll order off of a menu. They'll, you know, say, okay, today's options, you know, we had, you know, stuffed bell peppers and we had mahi-mahi, let's just say. They'll choose off the menu, but in memory care, if there's not any allergies, then we'll do half servings of both, so our residents can have a variety. But my executive chef also gives the family the option, hey, I will email you the menu each week if you want to go through and pick and choose what you want us to serve your loved one. So we have quite a few families that do that as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Wow, that's really awesome. So what do you think has been your greatest impact, you know, since you've been in senior living or been at Heartis? Has there been a particular situation or a resident that really has been impactful in your life? I know your grandmother was very impactful, and I know you mentioned a lady who, someone who's an artist.
Oh my goodness! So, you know, prior we were talking about art therapy, and we were talking about, you know, it's never too late to learn something new. And we have a resident at our community. She's currently 96 years old, and she self-taught herself how to paint at 84 years old. And
That
when
is
you
amazing.
when you look at this woman's art, you would not think that she's only been painting for 12 years.
Wow.
I mean, because she paints, you know, faces and people. I mean, that's hard.
That is.
She does the landscapes, and it is beautiful. And every month we showcase a different piece of her artwork at the front desk. Every month, every 2 weeks, and we just put it in rotation. But we are going to have a whole art show where we have, you know, music, wine, hors d'oeuvres, and she's going to have a whole gallery set up.
Wonderful.
Because her artwork is so beautiful. And she lives in a 2-bedroom apartment at our community, because one of her bedrooms is a true art studio, and she has everything set up because she paints every single day. And it's beautiful because anybody that wants to come and visit our community, I have about a 6-person wait list for 2 bedrooms right now. And so I will always show off her apartment. Because it's beautiful. And then you just see her art everywhere. And then she loves to engage and talk to families while they're in there. And she gives her testimony about how she chose another senior living community, you know, in the middle of the pandemic because I wouldn't let her family come in. And I said, at that time, we were only doing virtual. And her son said, well, you must be hiding something from me. I said, I'm not hiding anything from you. I'm protecting my residents. I'm doing my job to protect my residents. And he said, well, this other place let me in. And I said, so are you comfortable knowing that this other place is letting multiple people in? I said, my job is to protect my residents. And so she lived there for 6 months, and she called me and said, Alycia, I got to go. I can't. She said, I need to come home. And I'm like, well, I've got a wait list right now. So as soon as our wait list opened, she was next in line. And she said she's never been more happy And this is, you know, a lot of times when people move to assisted living, they put up a fight because they don't want to live their home. They've lived their home for 45 years.
Exactly.
But she said this was one of the best decisions that she's made, and she just wishes she did it sooner. But you know, having our residents, when people come and visit, I always have residents that will give their testimony. Sometimes they're planned, sometimes they're not, because residents are sitting around listening to music, having wine, or doing different activities, and they will stop and say, hey, let me tell you about this community. And I think that's one of the most impactful things is Heartis, it is a very home-like environment. Our community is home, and you know, people, oh, home is where the heart is, but I love saying that because I can genuinely say that home is where Heartis is. It really is. We have amazing residents. We have amazing families, and we have an amazing staff as well. We have a great administrator. He's very involved. Our health services team. We have a health services director. She has a resident care coordinator. I mean, we have many, you know, just layers of our clinical side. But our administrator, he is a leader that he leads with transparency, and he tells you like it is. And so, which is very important, and it's very needed. But our life enrichment director on the assisted living side, she's been there since we opened 5 years ago. And everybody knows who Ladybug is, and she's the light of our community as well. So another great fact is we have an 81% employee retention ratio in a pandemic. I mean, so people come to Heartis to stay. And I mean, caregivers, they can leave. They can leave for, you know, quarters to several dollars more, but they say, no, this is home. So
that's amazing. Well, I could tell that about you right from the beginning, that you're happy, you know, you enjoy what you do, and you enjoy the company you work for. And that makes all the difference in the world. It says a lot about a company.
Thank you.
It really does. And I'm sure that's I know it's a great thing for the families.
Yes.
When you have employees that are working there, you enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And so their family's going to get service the way they want them to, be treated the right way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everybody's accessible as well. And that's what's important, from administration to clinical to our med techs. I mean, even families know, well, if you know, Alicia's helped us with the moving process, but if I need something, I can just shoot her a text, or I can ask her for something and she's there. That's what we do.
That's great.
That's what we do.
That's great. Well, I tell you, I'm really excited about Heartis.
Thank you so much.
And your properties. Now, how many properties are there in the Metroplex for Heartis?
So for Heartis, we only have 2 in DFW. So we have Heartis Arlington, where I am, and then we have Heartis Mid-Cities, which is in Bedford. Now, they have assisted living and memory care as well, but then they also have independent living. So they've got the entire continuum at their location. But then our other locations, we've got one in Waco, we've got one in Longview, we've got Clear Lake outside of Houston, San Antonio. So we have several Heartis locations around Texas, but we are managed by Frontier Senior Living. And we just acquired 21 buildings about a week ago here in the DFW area. So I don't even know all of them.
Expanding.
So I'm still trying to learn those other communities. But we also have, under the Frontier brand, we have the Auberge communities, which they just specialize in memory care. They used to be Silverado buildings, and so now they're Auberge. We've got one in Benbrook, one in Plano, Valley Ranch, so they're around too. So Frontier Senior Living is our management.
Great, great. Well, that's good. You guys are expanding. And
We are.
Yeah, if anyone out there is looking for a place for their loved one, you know, you can look up Heartis and check them out. They're going to get taken care of really well.
Yes.
So do you have any closing thoughts we could leave our audience today? Anything that we hadn't covered, or any tips for our families if they're looking to place someone?
I would just say the number one regret that I always hear from families is, I waited too long. And don't wait too long. And it seems like it's going to hurt to have to leave the house, but what are you really leaving?
Right.
What are you really leaving behind that's got you hesitating so much? You're taking your memories with you. You're making this apartment your home. But again, you're taking your memories with you where you're going. You're just receiving the care and the assistance that you need. And so that's probably the most important takeaway that I would share with families is most people wait too long and they don't get to experience all the benefits of what we can provide, you know, and visit a community, because even when assisted living communities were shut down and we weren't able to do tours and visits inside, we were still living life to the fullest in our community. I mean, again, our residents at Heartis Arlington, they love their happy hour. They love their adult beverages. So, you know, I always joke about that, but they're still having fun, living life in our community. So there's so many testimonies inside. So if anybody has any questions, if they, you know, just want to talk to somebody, call us. I've got plenty of residents that would love to talk about it. So.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. So what is your contact information? And we'll make sure we put it up.
No, absolutely.
On this podcast.
So the best number to reach me at is my direct number, and it's, you want me to share it?
Go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's 682-330-8972. Again, it's 682-330-8972, and please feel free to call me, text me. That's a great number to reach me at, or you can email me, and my email address, it's marketing@heartisarlington.com. Again, marketing@Heartis, Heartis, heartisarlington.com.
Well, Alycia, thank you. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much.
And
it's been wonderful.
Great information for everyone out there.
Absolutely.
And if you decide to contact Alycia, and I encourage you to, if you just want to check it out, get your questions answered, and don't wait too late. Make sure you reach out to her. Just tell her that you saw her on my podcast. Don't forget to like us and subscribe to our channel. And make sure you reach out to a senior and brighten their day.